This is the worst POS I have ever used when it comes to a sluice box. And now that I've got your attention, let me explain. This is what you call a gold recovery system. We have something that powers a speed controller, which activates and works a pump, which feeds a wash plant, and then we have a gold recovery system. All of this must work together to catch gold. You can't do it with just one of these things alone. You need a power system, so whether that be a petrol pump, an electric pump, and the power behind it. So if you're running off solar, if you're running off batteries, or you're running off diesel, whatever you're running it off, it needs to be powerful enough to deliver an adequate amount of water, and you need to be able to control that water so that you can tune it into the soil that you're running, because all soil is different. You might be running something heavy clay-based, you might be running something that's very sandy or light, and you need to be able to adjust how much water is going down the sluice box. That is those two pieces there, and that's all going to be hooked up to a wash plant. Now this wash plant is actually pretty well designed. Something most hobby prospectors forget is that your spray bars and your hopper are actually probably the most important part of your wash plant system. These two spray bars here create resonance time. They push the dirt back up the box and you get this rolling action. The more time your dirt has in contact with these spray bars, the water jets coming out, the more gold you liberate from the rocks and the clay balls. Therefore, the longer the dirt stays here in contact with that, the more gold you should be able to recover. Now it is my birthday today, and I have been out all day with this machine, testing it, seeing what needs to be changed. No system from factory is perfect, none. You have to make it work for your area. And so I was figuring out where its weaknesses lie. This top box has one major weakness. Everything from here up, fantastic. These are not so much of a problem, but need work. This is what your classifier or your grizzly bars look like on this machine. And the first problem is these slots come up too far. And what happens is the dirt comes through here and the water comes through here. And when it drops directly onto where the mat is. It should be dropping up the back. You want the dirt to be as far back in your sluice box as possible, because that gives it more time to stratify. In other words, it gives it more time for the gold to sink to the bottom and then come in contact with your capture system, as opposed to dropping it on your capture system where it might not have sunk to the bottom yet. That is very easily fixable. All I've got to do is drill a couple of holes here, and underneath, up in there, I'm going to put a plate that will push the dirt down. That's called a dirt chute. And I've got them on every single high banker. Literally every high banker I own has a dirt chute, because every single manufacturer that I've ever bought a sluice box off puts the bloody grizzly bars too far up the box. They've got to be further back. So if you make sluice boxes, just bear that in mind, guys. Either fix a dirt chute to it so it pushes the dirt all the way back, or make sure you don't drill your holes too far up the box. That is not a major problem, and it is very easy to fix. But this disaster of a sluice mat, this thing is freaking useless. Now please take this coming from someone who spent 6 years full time mucking around with every type of commercially available sluice mat, making his own sluice mats, using Hessian sacks, literally potato sacks, to recover gold. I got better gold recovery out of that potato sack in my rocker box. Today I adjusted angle, I adjusted water flow rate, I adjusted feed rate. The mat is terrible, and it's simply because it's a drop riffle sluice that is contending with, let me just show you. First of all, because of that slot issue, the dirt hits about here. So automatically we lose about 3 or 4 drop riffles just to that issue there. That's not so bad. So again, this is a really well thought out box. That's not an issue. I can fix that very easily, and it's done on every single high banker, so I'm not worried about that. What I'm saying is we've just lost that much capture space because of where the dirt's dropping as it is. Then the problem is, these are just square channels, right? They're square channels, meaning that the water can literally come in and scoop the dirt out of those riffles. And that's what was happening. So if you had a pebble or a leaf or a stick or anything at all stop on that section, the water has the ability to scoop down, lift stuff up and kick it out. You think, okay, but you've got the rest of the mat. Yeah, sure. We've got this section. Look at these ginormous riffles. Can you see them, how far they kick up? You'd think that that would be good, but the problem is they're almost vertical. What happens is, and I've got film to show you this. I'm going to make a full video on this thing running. The water comes down and it jumps. It jumps so high that it lands on the next riffle, and then it jumps again and it lands on the next riffle, and it jumps again and then it lands on the next set or the next type of riffle. The problem with that is there's literally an air bubble underneath these mats. And that means that the gold, even if it's in contact with the mat, is ramping up and being carried over the top of them. When you stop that sluice box, you turn the pump off, or even if you just turn it down to a trickle because we've got a speed controller on it, there's no gravel in that section. It didn't matter how I set the sluice box up. There was never any gravel in that section. Now, these last riffles actually worked really well, and we caught most of our gold in those last riffles. That's actually a pretty decent design for a drop riffle set. Problem is, it's at the end and it's only about 3 inches long. So I've got a machine that can process about 1 pan's worth of raw dirt every minute, give or take. That is a lot of capacity for a sluice box this size. It's not very big, it's only 5 inches wide. And I've only given it 3 or 4 inches of mat that actually works to catch it. So I had at least a 60% loss rate today. Now I'm making this video for one simple reason. I just want to explain to you guys, it's not to like bang on about the mat. That mat in a longer sluice box could work really well, but that's not the case here. I want to explain that one part of your system being wrong can be detrimental to the overall system. Like you can have, this is a really good system. That sluice box is well designed. That pump and the speed controller integrated together using batteries that you would put in a drill is fantastic. However, that one thing let it down. I'm going to rectify it. I'm going to change the matting out, and I know how to fix that problem. That's going to be in a future video where we actually go through and modify this whole high banker. But just be aware, just because you bought something that's new, just because there are rave reviews about it, just because it looks like it's going to do its job doesn't mean it will. It's up to you to take your new equipment out, do what I did today and experiment with it. See what its limits are, see how it loses gold, and then make adjustments so it works on your gold fields. I don't want this to put anyone off from going ahead and buying a new machine. Every single machine I've ever owned needs tweaking, just like this one. It's part of becoming a good prospector, is learning the limitations of your equipment. All right, I hope that helps you guys out a little bit. I hope that explains what I've been doing today. And until next time, give your dog a scratch. But yes, we'll be peace. Bye.